In late July of 2017, 20-year-old Rachel and 22-year-old Joseph Orbiso set off on what was meant to be a short but memorable trip to Joshua Tree National Park in California. The couple, who had been dating for some time, planned to explore the park's striking desert landscape, take photos, and celebrate Rachel's birthday. But what was supposed to be an exciting adventure turned into a mystery that puzzled searchers for months. Rachel and Joseph had met 2 years earlier through mutual friends. Rachel, an outgoing and adventurous spirit, was drawn to Joseph's quiet confidence and kindness. They bonded over their shared love for the outdoors, often taking weekend trips to hike and explore California's natural beauty. Their relationship deepened over time, and Joseph became Rachel's closest confidant. Those who knew them described them as inseparable, always seeking their next adventure together. Joseph, a former security guard, had a protective nature. Rachel, ever the free spirit, found comfort in knowing Joseph was always looking out for her. They had spoken about the future, their dreams of traveling, and their hopes of one day settling down together. However, beneath the surface, there were occasional tensions. Joseph struggled with moments of insecurity, sometimes feeling as though he couldn't keep up with Rachel's fearless enthusiasm for life. Despite this, their love remained strong, and they continued planning new trips together. Rachel and Joseph had rented an Airbnb near the park and had told friends they planned to hike in the area on July 27th. When the owner of the Airbnb noticed that the couple had never checked out the following morning and their belongings were still inside, they immediately became concerned. Their car was later discovered in the Maze Loop area of the park, but there was no sign of Rachel or Joseph. A large-scale search effort was launched almost immediately. Friends, family, and volunteers joined search and rescue teams in scouring the rugged terrain. Drones, scent dogs, and helicopters were deployed in hopes of spotting the missing hikers, but days passed with no new leads. The summer heat in Joshua Tree National Park often reaches well over 100 degrees, and authorities knew that if Rachel and Joseph were lost, their time was running out. The case baffled investigators. There were no signs of foul play, but there was also no indication of what had happened. Theories ranged from heat exhaustion and dehydration to an accidental fall from the park's many rocky outcroppings. Some even speculated that the couple may have intentionally disappeared, though there was no evidence to support this idea. For nearly 3 months, Rachel and Joseph remained missing, despite continued search efforts. Then, on October 15, 2017, a search team made a heartbreaking discovery in a remote canyon near the park's Maze Loop Trail. The skeletal remains of both Rachel and Joseph were found locked in an embrace, suggesting they had died together. Investigators pieced together the most likely scenario. The couple had become lost, exhausted their water supply, and unable to find their way back, succumbed to the brutal desert conditions. Autopsies later confirmed that both had died from gunshot wounds, with authorities concluding it was a murder-suicide. Investigators believed Joseph had shot Rachel before turning the gun on himself, possibly as an act of desperation after days of being lost in the wilderness. It was a tragic ending to a case that had gripped many who followed the search efforts. The days leading up to their deaths must have been harrowing. Stranded in the unforgiving desert, they would have faced dehydration, scorching heat, and the psychological toll of realizing they were hopelessly lost. With no food, no water, and no way to call for help, their options would have dwindled rapidly. It is likely that exhaustion and delirium set in, making it even harder for them to navigate back to safety. Joseph's final decision remains one of the most haunting aspects of the case. Some believe it was an act of mercy, a way to spare Rachel from a prolonged and painful death. Others speculate that despair and hopelessness led to a moment of rash action. Whatever the motive, the reality remains the same. Their lives ended far too soon in a place they had come to explore and enjoy together. Though their disappearance was initially a mystery, Rachel and Joseph's story serves as a grim reminder of the dangers of hiking in extreme conditions without adequate preparation. To this day, their case is remembered as one of the most heartbreaking incidents in Joshua Tree National Park's history. In October 2020, Holly Courtier and her daughter Kaylee Chambers set out on a trip to Zion National Park, Utah. What was meant to be an adventurous bonding experience between mother and daughter soon turned into a dramatic search and rescue operation. The duo planned to traverse the Narrows, a stunning but treacherous stretch of canyon known for its narrow pathways and unpredictable waters. However, as the days passed without word from Holly, concern grew, and soon a large-scale search was launched. For Holly Courtier, life before the fateful hike had been increasingly difficult. A former nanny, she had recently lost her job due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The loss of financial stability weighed heavily on her, and she found herself struggling to regain a sense of purpose. For months, she had been searching for ways to reorient her life. The pressures of single parenthood and the uncertainty of the future only exacerbated her distress. Nature had always been her refuge. Hiking provided a sense of solace, a way to escape the overwhelming stress of everyday life. Holly had previously explored national parks across the country, and when she suggested a trip to Zion with her daughter, it seemed like an opportunity to reconnect with both herself and Kaylee. However, Kaylee was initially hesitant. She had concerns about the intensity of the hike, given the unpredictability of Zion's terrain. But she ultimately agreed, believing that the trip could be a way to strengthen her bond with her mother. The mother-daughter duo arrived at Zion National Park in early October. The Narrows, a canyon hike where trekkers often wade through the Virgin River, was their chosen route. The hike was challenging, with sections requiring hikers to navigate waist-deep water and slippery rock formations. As they ventured deeper into the canyon, the walls of rock towered above them, creating an otherworldly atmosphere. Despite the physical toll, Holly seemed more determined than ever. She encouraged Kaylee to push forward, convinced that reaching the endpoint would bring a sense of accomplishment and clarity. However, as the day progressed, Holly began showing signs of exhaustion. The water was colder than expected, and the effort required to move against the current drained her energy. The pair had underestimated how strenuous the hike would be, especially given Holly's declining physical condition. Kaylee became increasingly worried as her mother slowed. As evening approached, they realized they had not accounted for how quickly nightfall would descend upon the canyon. As fatigue set in, Holly made the fateful decision to stay behind while Kaylee pushed forward to find help. She insisted she would rest and catch up later. Kaylee, reluctant but aware of the urgency, agreed and carefully navigated her way out of the canyon, searching for park rangers or fellow hikers. However, by the time Kaylee reached safety, she realized her mother was not behind her. She immediately alerted authorities, triggering a large-scale search effort. When Holly did not emerge from the canyon, rescue teams were dispatched. Park rangers, volunteers, and emergency personnel combed the area, covering miles of rugged terrain in search of her. The search was complicated by the landscape of the Narrows, where towering rock walls and deep waters created numerous hiding spots. Authorities reviewed visitor logs, surveillance footage, and interviewed hikers who had been in the area. Some reported seeing Holly resting by a rock, appearing weak and disoriented. The weather posed an additional challenge. October weather in Zion varies greatly, with warm afternoons but much colder nights. As the search entered its second week, concerns grew over Holly's ability to survive in such conditions without proper gear or supplies. After 12 days, rescuers finally located Holly. She was found in a deeply secluded section of the park, severely dehydrated and weak. She claimed to have survived by drinking water from a nearby spring and sheltering against the rock walls at night. Her survival sparked controversy. Some questioned how she had endured so long in such harsh conditions, while others commended her resilience. Theories emerged, with skeptics doubting whether she had truly been lost or if there was more to the story. Once rescued, Holly was taken to a nearby hospital for evaluation. She recounted her ordeal, emphasizing the emotional toll and physical struggle she endured. However, the inconsistencies in her account led to speculation. Some found it difficult to believe that someone could survive nearly 2 weeks with limited food and harsh temperatures. Others pointed to the possibility of a mental health crisis. Kaylee, however, remained steadfast in supporting her mother. She maintained that Holly had genuinely been in danger and that their trip had simply gone horribly wrong. The case of Holly Courtier and Kaylee Chambers remains one of the most debated survival stories in recent years. While some aspects of Holly's ordeal remain unclear, her experience serves as a reminder of the unpredictability of nature and the necessity of preparation. For hikers, Zion National Park offers both beauty and danger. The Narrows, though mesmerizing, demands respect and readiness. Holly's story highlights the risks of underestimating nature and the importance of thorough planning before venturing into remote wilderness. In March 2021, Glendale resident Narina Avakian set out for what was supposed to be a day-long hike in the Angeles National Forest. An experienced hiker who loved the outdoors, Narina often took solo trips to explore nature. However, this hike would tragically become her last. When Narina failed to return home that evening, her family grew concerned. She had not mentioned a specific hiking location, and multiple calls to her phone went unanswered. Her family, knowing her usual routines, reported her missing the following day. Authorities from the Glendale Police Department immediately launched an investigation, working to trace her last known movements. Investigators began by questioning family members, close friends, and colleagues to determine where she might have gone. They checked her social media activity, bank transactions, and phone records in an attempt to pinpoint her destination. Unfortunately, there were no recent posts or messages indicating her plans for the day. As the search intensified, officers reviewed surveillance footage from traffic cameras in the area. After scanning footage from roads leading into the Angeles National Forest, authorities identified Narina's car, a white Toyota Prius, parked near the Mount Waterman trailhead. Search and rescue teams were immediately dispatched to the location, hoping to find clues that would lead them to her whereabouts. Volunteers, rescue dogs, and aerial units joined the search efforts. The Angeles National Forest is vast, with treacherous terrain, steep slopes, and unpredictable weather conditions, making the search particularly challenging. Given that Narina had been missing for several days by this point, time was critical. On March 13, 2021, after nearly a week of searching, rescuers found Narina's body in a rugged area near the Mount Waterman Trail. She was located a short distance from the trailhead, suggesting that she may have gotten lost or succumbed to the harsh conditions. The medical examiner later determined that her cause of death was hypothermia, a tragic end to what was likely meant to be a peaceful outdoor retreat. Temperatures in the area during that time of year can vary significantly, with daytime highs reaching around 50 degrees Fahrenheit 10 degrees Celsius and nighttime dropping as low as 20 degrees Fahrenheit minus 6 degrees Celsius. It is likely that Narina was caught off guard by the sudden drop in temperature, which left her disoriented and unable to return to safety. Hypothermia can set in rapidly, even for experienced hikers, especially in mountainous areas where the weather can change unpredictably. Authorities found no signs of foul play. The evidence pointed to the possibility that Narina had been caught off guard by a sudden drop in temperature, leaving her vulnerable to the elements. The investigation into Narina's disappearance was extensive. Authorities pieced together her last known movements, using forensic analysis, surveillance footage, and witness statements. They confirmed that she had left home early in the morning, stopping briefly at a local gas station to refuel her car. A receipt found in her vehicle indicated she had also purchased bottled water and energy snacks, common supplies for a day hike. Phone records showed that Narina's last known signal had pinged off a cell tower near Mount Waterman, reinforcing the idea that she had set off on the trail from there. Searchers combed the area, looking for footprints or any signs of her presence. They discovered a small indentation in the snow, likely where she had stopped to rest, but no signs of struggle or external injuries were found on her body. The challenges of solo hiking. Hiking alone can be incredibly peaceful and rewarding, but it also comes with inherent dangers. Narina was an experienced hiker, but even experienced hikers can fall victim to unforeseen circumstances. Hypothermia can impair judgment, leading to disorientation and confusion, making it difficult for victims to find their way back. The lack of immediate communication and assistance can turn a minor setback into a life-threatening emergency. Friends and family members later recalled that Narina had a deep love for nature and often enjoyed hiking as a way to clear her mind. She had spoken about exploring new trails and challenging herself with more difficult hikes, though she was also known for taking safety precautions. However, on this particular occasion, the weather conditions proved too dangerous. Narina's death sent shockwaves through the Glendale community and beyond. Many who knew her described her as kind, adventurous, and full of life. Her family expressed their grief, urging others to be cautious when hiking in extreme conditions. In the wake of her passing, several local hiking groups and organizations emphasized the importance of preparation, safety gear, and notifying loved ones before venturing out alone. Experts recommend carrying emergency blankets, a whistle, a GPS beacon, and extra clothing when hiking in remote areas where temperatures can drop unexpectedly. Her family continues to honor her memory by advocating for hiker safety and raising awareness about the dangers of solo excursions in unpredictable environments. While her loved ones grieve, they also hope that others will learn from her story and take the necessary precautions to avoid similar tragedies. Narina Avakian's story serves as both a heartbreaking cautionary tale and a tribute to her adventurous spirit. While nature is beautiful and inviting, it also holds unexpected dangers that can turn a simple day hike into a life-threatening situation. As hikers continue to explore the trails of Southern California, Narina's story will remain a reminder of the importance of preparation, awareness, and respect for the power of nature.